what's going on when you're just sort of opening the post one morning? Royal Mail may have deigned to deliver the post one day. Remarkable opportunity, maybe. And all of a sudden, you get a letter from Companies House announcing that XYZ company has just been opened, registered at your address. You've never heard of the company. You're not the director. You didn't set it up. It's a complete scam. It's a fake. Has that happened to you? Has it happened to your neighbour? If so, I want to hear from you. We're delighted to be joined now by Justin Urquhart Stewart, because there is and he is the co-founder of the regionally investment platform. And Justin, a very good morning to you. This is extraordinary. There's an article in the paper, one of the papers, a couple of days ago. 82 scam businesses set up on one street in 20 homes, and all the neighbours are sort of saying, has anyone else seen this? I mean, it's like getting together in the, where they're getting together on the, in the playground or in the church or at the post office. And they think, what is going on here? What is going on, Justin?
It's an astonishing loophole in the system that people can set up companies and use an address. Whose address? Well, anybody's address. Do they have to check? No. And in fact, actually, what they request is that you, having got that address, need to check to make sure no one else is using it, which is a bit of a bloody cheat to start with. And this is one of the issues when it comes to property law. You need to be very careful indeed. You may own the property. That property is actually registered. We have all automatically registered property throughout the whole United Kingdom now. And the whole idea was to make sure you be clear as to ownership and title of the property. But when it comes to setting up a company, you can actually just nominate an address, but you don't actually necessarily have to prove that you're there or have any connection with it at all. It just has to be an address which has a postcode and can be found in some system or other, and lo and behold, you're there. So, yes, this group of people you're talking about, they found one particular street where, frankly, the whole lot have been raided almost and find themselves, linked to it. And this could be extremely dangerous, because what happens if that company then gets into difficulties, and a very good chance they're not exactly going to be wonderfully kosher, are they? Then you may well find bailiffs and other people turning up at your door saying, we demand value because actually you owe my client's money.
So this is really important. This is really important advice to everybody. You may think this doesn't apply to you, but I tell you what, watch out, take real notice, because this could affect your credit rating. And the article goes on to say, Justin, that Companies House admit that this isn't just one or two streets that a few dodgy scamsters have discovered. This apparently is happening up and down the country. It's countrywide.
Oh, because once the scammers work out the way to do it, then actually you might as well spread it all over the place, because then there's less chance of actually being found out. In fact, the more obscure you make it, put it down on some south coast town, merely known for some holidays and things, or stick it up on the Yorkshire coast, doesn't really matter. They're not actually seen as being sort of necessarily the most magnificent titles, which people would realise probably wouldn't be where you'd find a business. And so that what they want to do is they just want to come across something suitably anonymous. And the first thing actually the poor person owning the property, let alone actually living in the property, finds out is when someone turns up. So this is Companies House, actually a real hole. And of course, what's happened over the years, we now have many more corporate scams. And of course, these corporate scams aren't happening just in Britain. What happens is anywhere in the world, they'll set up a company in the world in Britain and just nominate your particular property.
But here's the thing.
You have to go and check this.
And you could say it's a good thing that the UK is one of the easiest places and cheapest, most cost-effective places to set up a new business. But this is the flip side of that. And it seems to me that what you've got, these scamsters are doing it either to get dodgy loans or as a way of helping them launder money. We know it's going on in other different sectors. Yep. But what could and should Companies House be urgently doing about this to stop this?
Well, actually, it could be relatively straightforward. What they need to have is actually proof of ownership. And that doesn't mean necessarily just actually checking the title deeds on the electronic register, but also then proof of ownership, such as those old-fashioned things, such as utility bills. And all those rather boring items you have to dig out when you actually want to get your passport done or something like that. It may sound rather tedious, but at the moment, all the Companies House do is tell the individual in the house to go and check. Well, why? This is actually, when you're setting up a company, you should actually have the responsibility and make sure you have sound property you can use. You've got the ability to use that, and it's perfectly sound and liable, suitably liable to operate it from, and you're not breaking any rules.
Absolutely, because traditionally, obviously, companies are set up at offices, and you sometimes get serviced offices where there are lots of companies, and that's all fine, but it's about providing that confirmation, or at least, worst case, there should be a mechanism where Companies House can immediately, in some way, revoke it if it's been set up at some complete scam address.
And as you've raised before, quite rightly, Richard, Britain actually is very good at setting up businesses. Where do our small businesses grow up? Where do our bigger businesses come from? The answer is, well, smaller ones getting larger.
Exactly.
We're very good at setting businesses up. But if it's setting them up with, with dodgy addresses, that's not just going to be that company which is going to be the issue, or the address they're using. It's also the reputation of British business, the reputation of actually setting up a sound business with Companies House. So if Companies House can't be trusted, why would people come to this country to set up a business? So, this is part of our reputation and our the pride and the value of actually doing business in Britain. So this is something we need to press the government to try and change. It's not difficult to do. You have to bring in some relatively small, simple rules. It doesn't make life very complicated to set up a business. It's hardly going to make life very complicated, but it would actually make sure that totally innocent people aren't being drawn into it, and also make sure we've got the right reputation for British business.
I'm quite sure Companies House could adopt some new guidance. It wouldn't actually require new legislation. Before I let you go, Justin, I think the Bank of England, is it this week they're meeting again?
Yep.
And I'm desperately worried that they are going to increase interest rates. What's your inside knowledge? What's going to happen?
Well, mutter for the gutter a few weeks ago was that actually they weren't going to put up interest rates, and that was the last time. Now, it may well be they put them up again and say this is the last time. Who knows? Frankly, they shouldn't put them up. They shouldn't have put them up already, because, as you described before, impact of interest rate rises take at least a year to 18 months to have an impact. And we've been through a run of these. They've already had an impact, but it's the wrong sort of actual inflation you're dealing with. If we were dealing with a consumer boom, then quite rightly you put up interest rates. We're not dealing with consumer boom. Consumers are doing directly the opposite. They haven't got any money. We're actually dealing with supply chain issues here of basic commodities going up, and actually putting interest rates on that doesn't do a thing.
They could impact inflation mathematically by cutting consumer taxes, but they seem to have resisted my excellent advice that I've been giving them for over a year.
Well, keep having a go. Maybe they'll take some notice. I doubt it, but it's worth saying anyway.
Justin, thank you so much indeed.